Or
Yes.
Very excited about what happened today. Just so you know, we had a big tribute for Scott Studwell at the end here. Everybody wore their Scott Studwell t-shirts today and hats. I don't put hats because of my hair, but just kidding. But it was an honor to work with him for all these years, and I know how much he meant to everybody in that room. So it was very emotional on both ends, and he will always be a Minnesota Viking. So let's go ahead and get started. Had a lot of draft picks today. Did move up to go get Drew, Samaya, another guy that fits what we want to do offensively. Felt that there was going to be a surge, so we're able to move up to get him. Spent some time with him down at the Senior Bowl and at the Combine, and coaches, scouts, everybody felt that he's going to be an ideal fit in this system as well. Then Cameron Smith in the 5th round. We moved back, I believe, a couple spots there because of the depth at the linebacker spot. I know he also played very well down at the Senior Bowl. He's a multi-position linebacker that's very productive, very smart, and is going to play very well on special teams. When we got into the 6th round, a couple of guys that we ended up taking, and why it was a benefit for us is our coaches at the East-West work with some of these kids. So they had an opportunity to be with them in meetings, to teach them out at practice. So that was Armani Watts and Udo would be, we're coming up with a nickname for him now. But both those guys, I know, worked with our coaches. Our coaches were very excited about what they saw and what they were able to learn from these players while they were down working with them at the East-West. Marcus Epps is a very good safety, very instinctive. I know we spent a lot of time with him as we on the film and the evaluations and group studies to bring in another probably special team player, high character, very good football player. When we got through the 7th round, we were trying to look for as much value as we can. Chris Boyd, I know, was also down at the Senior Bowl. We spent a lot of time with him. Technically, he probably has some things to clean up, but he is a very gifted athlete and very physical in the run game. So he had a lot of traits that we were looking for, and I know when we go through and have this many picks in the later rounds, the one thing we are trying to identify with the coaches and with the scouts are traits that these coaches can get in and work with and develop. And we took, Dylan Mitchell and Olabisi Johnson, all those guys, our coaches and scouts did a tremendous job studying, trying to stack the bottom end of that board to go ahead and get guys that we think have the ability to develop and hopefully turn out for us. Last pick, Austin Cutting, the long snapper from Air Force. Just so everybody understands, we've been in constant communication with the Air Force Academy. What I can tell you is I know Austin's very excited and obligated to serve his commitment. I know talking with the people at the Academy, we're working through right now ways that he can serve his commitment, but also be able to serve his capacity here as a football player. So that's work in progress. That's something that we've discussed over the past week or so. I give a lot of credit to Moof and Ryan Ficken. Those guys went out and did a lot of personal workouts with all these specialists and the long snappers, and felt when they came back that he was the best long snapper out there. All we're looking for is, just like at every other position, is to bring the best players in and create as much competition as we can. So I'll go ahead and open it up for questions.
Rick, given how much draft capital and currency you were able to get yesterday, were there points this afternoon where you were hoping to package and move up and just couldn't find a trade partner?
We did it with Drew. There was another player that we tried to do it with, weren't able to get it done. And so we went ahead and stood, by our draft picks. Again, I thought it was a very deep class, and some of these players that we were able to get in the later rounds, we felt were going to be options for us as we come down and make the 53-man roster. Sometimes, like I said, it worked out in the Drew situation. Another situation, it didn't work out. But and then after that, we kind of sat there and we spent so much time on the back end of that draft board with these draft picks. Probably last week, we had all the coaches and scouts sit in, and we went through and discussed hundreds of players again, over and over, to make sure we were all on the same page and seeing the potential development of these guys.
In this draft, getting Brad Berry in the first round, then picking up 2 offensive linemen today, how much overall do you think you helped the offensive line?
I think, that's why we drafted him. We wanted to come in and try to improve that area. I think the guys we drafted were very specific to what we're going to do from a schematic standpoint. And that's what we want to do, is make sure that we're matching up the traits of the players to the scheme that we're going to run.
With Samaya, do you see him at guard, and is he a project, or is he?
Yeah, which one was that?
Samaya.
Yeah. The guy. No, he, I know Rico Dennison and Andrew Janoko, spend a lot of time with him. He was an unbelievable interview at the Combine, maybe one of the toughest competitors we've seen on tape on how he finishes. He fits the zone scheme very well. He has a few technical flaws to clean up, but we think that is correctable with coaching. And he was the highest rated player on our board at the time. And we want to stay true to our board and continue, to add to that competition on the offensive line.
Rick, how good is that Oklahoma offensive line, and 4 guys going? Is the coaching a little better down there?
Well, they got a quarterback that's pretty good.
Yeah.
So, but no, they've always produced some offensive linemen down there. They got some young ones, I'm sure, that will step in and play in the NFL. But I think Oklahoma always does a great job in developing talent, just like the Alabamas of the world, the Ohio States of the world, the Clemsons of the world. And Oklahoma's right up there with the coaching job that they do with their players. And they had a very talented football team. That's why they've been so successful.
Rick, what do you like about Cameron Smith?
His versatility. I think he has the ability to play Mike, Sam, and Will. You can cross-train him. His intelligence, his passion for the game, his character off the field. And I just don't think you can go wrong, because he is a very good football player. And when you can get smart, passionate, high-character guys that are good football players, you usually have a pretty good chance on hitting on them.
You've got a lot of guys that looks like in battle for the number 3 receiving spot. The 2 guys you took in the 7th round, are they going to be in that mix to play right
Yeah,
away?
well, like I said, we got to get them all in here and start looking. We haven't evaluated them out on the practice field yet, so that evaluation part starts this weekend coming up with the rookie mini camp. And then that's what training camp's for, and all we want to do is get the best 90-man roster we can possibly get right now.
And what do you like really about each of those 2 receivers?
Both of them are very athletic. Dylan Mitchell has explosive speed and playmaking ability. Olabisi is a very quick-twitched athlete for a bigger receiver that has excellent hands. So, we'll get a better sense. I mean, we've done all the tape work on them, our scouts. I can't, thank Jamal Stevenson and all of our scouts and the time and effort they put into this, because I'm not going to be able to see all these guys. And when we do get into those draft meetings, and a couple guys like these that may be identified as potential guys, I try to take a look at them as well, but they do all the work and all the background, and I have the utmost confidence in them and what they produce.
Was it a priority among the receiver group to get some guys who were, I guess, deemed as a deep ball threat?
I think as we looked at the board, we wanted to go back and look at where are the best athletes, and these two stuck out from an athletic standpoint from some of the other positions that we were looking at. So we're really, I guess, in those late rounds, looking for guys that have tremendous upside, and because you don't know what you're going to hit on. And all these guys, I feel, are extremely athletic that have potential to be very good football players for us. And that'll be determined as we get going here.
They both have punt return experience. Was that a priority?
We looked at that as punt return too. I know losing Marcus Sherrills, we have a couple candidates on our roster right now. But that's another reason why they had some value for us.
Can Chris Boyd be a kickoff guy? You think he did some of that?
Yeah, I know, but I know Amir Abdullah's a very good kickoff guy and showed he could do that last year as well. So again, I think all the areas on special teams and the returners, until we have enough viable options to identify who's going to be the punt and kickoff returner, but that's yet to be determined until we get out there and start evaluating.
How important was it to get Boyd in here, just given some of the question marks with depth concerns at safety, at the cornerback?
Yeah, no, he's we have pretty good depth at the corner position, but also Mike Hughes is coming back from injury. I know the situation with Holton Hill, so we wanted to make sure when we were down there that we get another corner in here to develop. And it seems as you go through the years, especially with the defense and the demand that's put on the corners, is them, and it's true, you can never have enough of those guys, because when you do get injuries, you have to have guys that have that athletic skill set that can play in this scheme, because a lot of corners are very good corners, but they may not be as good a corner in our scheme because of what's demanded of them on the outside and a lot of the man type of defense that we play in this system.
Hey Rick, you talked about emphasizing undrafted free agency the past few years. When you have 12 picks, does that ease the pressure a little bit?
No, we're up there hammering away and spending money and trying to get the best guys we can get in here. So they're finalizing that now, but I think how many college free agents are on this roster right now? How many guys in college free agency has started for us? From the Eric Wilsons to the Anthony Harrises. We have a lot of guys of, the Thielen and CJ Hammer. So we have a lot of guys and a lot of college free agents that come in here and make this football team. And I think that's why, how many, we drafted a corner in the first round and have 2 first-round corners in the second-round corner, and Holton Hill played for us last year, and he came here. So I think amongst the agents, we have a pretty good reputation of, we're going to get the best 90 guys in here, and then once they get in here, we want to play the best players. We're here to win football games, and we throw draft, where you're drafted, or if you come in as a college free agent, or if you come in as a rookie tryout guy next weekend. We're going to try to find the best players that are going to help us win football games, and that's kind of been a philosophy since Coach Zimmer has been here, and I believe in that too.
Do you anticipate signing maybe fewer of them, especially with the AAF signings as well?
Yeah, well, we have to sign 90 guys, so we'll get to 90. I know that. So we're close to that. We didn't have to sign 25 guys after the draft. A couple of those AAF guys stuck out to us on film. Our scouts went out. I actually went out to an AAF game as well to scout it with George Payton when we were out at Utah Pro Day. We went and saw San Diego versus Utah on a Saturday night after Utah and BYU Pro Day. So that's what, I give credit to the pro side too, because those guys are watching all the tapes. They're putting evaluations on those guys. They're doing the same thing in the Canadian League every year. In December, we have, top 5 or 6 Canadian kids come in and work out. So we're always going to try to look everywhere to try to find the best players and sign them and let them come in and compete.
Rick, you were pretty aggressive getting defensive depth from the AAF. Did that in any way let you spend more attention on the offense?
We just felt that those were the best players. Like when we look at the Canadian League, when we look at the AAF, we try to identify the best players regardless of position, and we felt that a lot of those defensive guys seemed to those are the guys that we felt, not offense or defense, but were the better players in the AAF. Now, we lost, some guys we couldn't all get them all, but the guys we honed in on. We have a great relationship with the GMs that ran the AAF, talk to them constantly, know a lot of the head coaches in the AAF. Mike Bradley, in fact, coached my son, so I had a pretty good source down there. So we have a lot of contacts in there, and those guys kind of helped us identify some guys as well, and had great communication.
What was Coach Zimmer like as you're using your first 4 picks on offense?
Very excited. We need to run the ball. We need to be better on offense, and that's where we needed the help. Our defense, we have, I think, every starter back, and signed Shamar back. So, kept Anthony Barr. So we don't have a lot of defensive needs from the starter position. So we wanted to add depth in the later rounds, and we have some pretty good depth even from last year's draft. I'm excited to see some of these guys and the opportunity they're going to get. So, offense was kind of a point of emphasis, and we were never going to pass up a defensive guy if he's sticking that high on our board, and one of those guys would have fell. We're never going to not take the best player. But as we went down through the draft, I thought it fell very well for us on the players that we did get on the offensive side.
Oli Udo already moves pretty well, but he's a little bit bigger than you typically see for a zone lineman. Do you anticipate him?
He ran, I believe, close to 5'05",
5'5".
And when our coaches worked with him down at the East-West, they got their hands on him and seen some of the things in the movement stuff that he can do. So that's invaluable. I mean, you hate to miss the playoffs, and I never want to miss the playoffs, but if you do, then to throw all of our young coaches down into that East-West game, I thought it was a huge competitive advantage for us to really hone in and scout, because we had coaches on both teams. So they had a unbelievable opinion of not only working with them, but also what they did in the classroom, how they acted, was their character the right character. So we had some really good insight on those players.
Rick, did you field any calls today from teams wanting to potentially tap into any current Vikings in effect for a trade?
Yeah, no, not really. No, I would say we didn't. I said most of our day was honed in on this. Most of the calls were us either trying to move up or teams calling us, for us to move back. But, we had a couple opportunities to move back again, but I said we're gonna run out of players on our board. We should have enough to get where we need to get done, so.
Rick, you were able to draft another handful of guys this year that played down at the Senior Bowl and the East-West Shrine game. Can you just talk about maybe why that's so beneficial to get that extra in-depth look, and maybe just the job guys like Phil Savage and Jim Nagy have done for you?
Yeah, those guys do a phenomenal job and both guys do at the All-Star games. And I think Harold Richardson's still heavily involved in the East-West, and I think Dan Shanka helps him a lot putting that roster together. But it gives you an opportunity to see them in a different environment. It gives you an opportunity to see them matched up, especially if they're a smaller school or, even some of these big school kids, just to see how they're going to go down there, and are they spiraling up after their season, and you see if it's going in an upward movement through the All-Star games and then through the Combine and through the Pro Day. And some guys we may have liked, and then all of a sudden we go through this pre-draft process, going through the All-Star games and the Combine and the Pro Days, and they spiral down, and then, okay, we'll adjust that as well. Because I think it's a critical part of our job and a critical part of the whole draft process to get the big picture of everything you want.
Going back to your long snapper, Austin, what do you think the chances are that he'll be cleared to potentially make him play for the Vikings?
I'll just tell you this, I've been, like I said, been in communication with the Air Force Academy, and we've had talks, and I'll leave those talks private at this time.
Time for 2 more.
Rick, is there a character trait that you look for specifically with later round guys, especially since this team has had some guys later in the rounds, like Stephon Diggs, have such great success? Is there something that you've learned from your successes that you carry over to now?
I think guys that are competitive, You can't go wrong with guys that love to play this game, and we try to identify that the best we can through every process that we do. Now, like I said, I'm never going to be, or no one's ever going to be 100% right, but guys that really truly love to compete and go out there and play, and that's one of my big questions, as we go through the interviewing all these kids at the All-Star games, at the Combine, when they come in on the top 30. I'm always curious because every one of those kids will say, yeah, no, I love to compete, I love the game. Well, I said, I can hear that from every other player, the 5,000 other ones that sat across from me. And I really try to find what's your driving force. Everybody has some kind of force or something woven inside of them why they do the job they do. I know why I do this job. You guys probably have that same driving force and why you're so successful at what you do. So you try to identify whatever that is woven inside of them to see why they like to play.
Yeah, Rick, the past few drafts, there's been some players with Nigerian descent coming this way. Why do you think it's led to that?
I think just a lot of these colleges now are getting a lot of these kids over from Africa, they're coming from everywhere. And I think it tells you that they're, I think the Arkansas offensive guard was from Denmark, if I'm not mistaken. But there's a lot of talent out there. The NFL has done a pretty good job of trying to comb through, the players over in Europe that potentially may have a chance to develop over here. They have that special program now. We haven't been in a cycle yet where you get to keep an international player on your practice squad and it doesn't count. So I think they do a great job trying to identify some guys. But the colleges are where these kids are coming from. And when you see them come over here, they come over and live with their families and they get an opportunity to learn American football and start playing. I think that's why you're seeing it.
What a lot of people love about the draft is just the unknown, the twists, the turns. I know the dust hasn't settled yet, but when you look back, do you think there's something specific that was unique about this draft class, the way it unfolded?
I think probably is that, especially with the first two picks, we were pretty patient letting it come to us, and I think we were pretty blessed and fortunate that we were able to get those guys that fell in our lap without us having to move up or down, and staying patient and hoping no one would jump you for one of those players and letting them fall to us.